anything goes, huh?
Yeah, 6:30, and I will initially start the meeting, and shortly we will have a self-nomination for a chair and vice chair, and after that vote is conducted, I will gladly give up the running of the meeting to whomever is selected. But the first thing I'd like to do is ask the city clerk to call the roll.
Patricia Coughlin.
Present.
John Counts.
Here.
Trish Haynes.
Here.
Bernie Jock.
Here.
Rosemary Mills.
Here.
Ann Peachy.
Here.
And Sharon Spalm.
Here.
Okay, the next item, I would like to introduce you to Erica. She is one of our assistant city attorneys, and the city attorney asked that the first thing on the agenda be the attorney discussion on government in the sunshine, public records, public meetings, and ethics compliance. So this is kind of an committee orientation of sorts.
Good evening. I briefly met some of you prior to the meeting. I'm Erica Augello. Again, I'm the Assistant City Attorney for the City of Seminole. I know Jay had sent you all a brief email kind of outlining some of the things as far as your roles and responsibilities now that you're part of an official public board. So first of all, congratulations and welcome. There are a couple things in the state of Florida that are unique to public boards like this one. First is the application of the Sunshine Law. The second is the application of Florida public records laws. And the third is your ethical obligations under the Florida statutes. And likewise, perhaps the Seminole City Code. Just a brief overview. Florida Sunshine Law requires that all meetings of this board which official acts take place do so in the sunshine. That just means that it must be a publicly noticed meeting. This is to allow for transparency with the public and for allow the public to come and participate if they so choose, at least by engaging and hearing what's happening at the meeting, especially since there are going to be some recommendations with regards to potential changes of the charter to the board of the council. It's very important that all those discussions be held in the sunshine, so at a publicly noticed meeting. What this means for you is, to kind of be a little bit kitschy, where two are gathered in my name, don't talk about whatever is going to be happening on this board. So if there are two or more of you and say out and you run into each other somewhere in this city and you start discussing matters that might come before this board, you're violating the Sunshine Law. So good rule of thumb is if you guys see each other out in public, say hi, keep it personal, not professional, and you will be fine. The other thing is when we're talking about when you're gathered, it's what is considered, or excuse me, what is at a public meeting is what is considered an official act. That there's a very broad definition of what an official act of this board is. That can be anything from a discussion topic that's being held. Again, so we put back to that rule of thumb that if you're going to be anywhere and it's not a publicly noticed meeting, just try not to talk about anything that this board has conducted or might be conducting in the future. Well, I mentioned when you're out in public, the other ways that you communicate with each other, either by email, I don't know that anyone uses the U.S. mail anymore, but if you were to send a letter, via telephone, text message, through social media platform, or through what we call a conduit, telling somebody else who's not on this board and having them tell a member of the board, anything that has to do with what might come before this board, that's going to be a violation of the Sunshine Law. So when I say meet in public, I mean any type of communication as well. So if you can avoid that and just maintain any conversations or any even a brief question or anything about what's happening on this board with another member of the board, just make sure it's in this room at a publicly noticed meeting, and then you will be fine. So that's a little bit about the Sunshine Law. Public records laws are very broad here in Florida. A public record under the statute is defined as all documents, papers, letters, maps, books, tapes, photographs, films, sound recordings, data processing software, or other material, regardless of the physical form, characteristics, or means of transmission, made or received pursuant to law or ordinance, or in connection with the transaction of official business by any agency. All that to say, that anything that contains information or data in any type of form that has to do with the official business of this board or the city is considered a public record. That goes back to any type of communication via text, via email, and like Jay said in his email, it doesn't matter whether or not it's through your personal email or a city email. It is not the means with which it is transmitted, is the content that is transmitted. So anything that is considered a business of the board or business of the city is going to be considered a public record. What that means is if you're handling it and you're sending a citizen asks a question that pertains to this board, and you send a text message back and say, yes, we're going to be discussing this or whatnot, or it has to do with the official business of this board, that is now a public record. So you need to do your best to preserve that. How that's done is call the clerk and see how they want you to do that. I'm sure the city has a process by which those things are handled, but you just need to make sure that those things are now considered public records, and they are subject to all the public records laws that we have here in Florida.
And to answer that, everything would be forwarded to the city clerk and she would serve as a repository.
As far as any ethics issues, I'm not going to go too much into that, but Part 3 of Chapter 112 of the Florida Statutes does contain the Code of Ethics for public officers and employees. That's something that applies to you in this case that you have been appointed by the City Council to serve on this board. Basically, things to stay away from, you cannot solicit or accept anything of value to you, gifts, loans, money, anything of that for any type of promise of some sort of future act that you can give within your power or discretion on this board. There's not much that's not really going to come into play too much on this board, because you don't have the power to necessarily make a decision that's going to go into effect with, say, like a development agreement or anything like that, since this is an advisory board that has to deal with the charter changes. But there may be someone in the community who wants to come up to you and say, hey, I'll buy you these season tickets to the Tampa Bay Lightning if you push to change this provision in the charter. I don't see that happening, but if it does, just know that you are subject to the ethics code in the Florida statutes, and that would be an ethical violation. And then with that, I will answer any questions that you all have with regards to that. I don't want to take up too much time this evening with that. But does anyone have any questions on either the Sunshine Law, the Florida Records Law, or the Public Records Law, or the Ethics Code?
No, but I have a question. If I want to give Jay a call and meet with him, because he said he was open to meet with us, does that have to be here, or can I just meet him whenever?
I'm going to leave that up to Jay and his calendaring, but
Okay.
he's never had a problem coming down here or meeting wherever's convenient for you. And just like in the email said, if Jay's unavailable, of course, you can always call or email myself. There's three other attorneys that are very familiar with what this board is charged to do, and with any of the public records, sunshine, or ethics codes.
Okay.
You can contact us at any time, and somebody or everybody will get back to you. Are there any other questions? Yes.
Would it be prudent to create a separate email account for communications with city residents if we're soliciting ideas? That way it helps with the preservation of public records, or what about versus using personal email? I mean, what would you recommend in that?
I mean, it certainly would be prudent if you chose to do that, but it's not necessary. Just if you think that you can keep in your mind what is something that needs to be sent to the clerk as a means of public record keeping. I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea, creating some sort of Gmail account or whatever that's dedicated just for this, so it's easy enough to just say, here's everything. It's not necessary, but you're correct, it might be prudent. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, great.
All right, the next item on the agenda is to discuss the charter review process. If you would, each of you have a copy. We sent you a link because most everybody likes to look at things electronically these days, but we did give you a hard copy. And I will tell you that if you go to the Municipal Code on that link, just make sure you're copying it from the link and not going through the website to do it, because it will give you the wrong version of our charter. This is the correct version, your link is the correct version. So it had, we had actually made a copy earlier that did not capture the last changes of the charter changes that were made. And so this one is up to date. And when you turn to section 10.03, and on mine is page 7 of 18, Charter Review Committee. Does everybody have that section? Okay, I just want to go over this and just in case there's any questions. And
It's at the very end of the packet.
the first charter review session was in 1999, and every 5 years thereafter, a charter review committee will convene, and that's what this is. There is a mention here that there's 7 members who shall serve until the ballot language deadline. This year, the ballot language deadline for the supervisor relations for Pinellas County is August 20th. Now, what does that mean to this committee? It means that if in fact there is a language change, it has to be to her at that time, and the city council must transmit it by ordinance, a first and a second reading. So basically, the strong suggestion to this committee is that when you are later scheduling your meetings, you schedule them with a target date into May 1st of June to have your ideas to the city attorney to be able to draft them into an ordinance. And that is in keeping with basically what has happened in the past. And I'll talk about what's happened in the past and after my review of this. You will be asked tonight to elect a chair and a vice chair. That person has no stronger vote than any other member. It's just simply somebody to run the meeting. And the chair does have the power in this charter to call a meeting if in fact it's not one that's already been set by this body. I'm planting the seed, so if you would think it will be a self-nomination, I'll call for nominations, and then if we need to vote, it will be a hand or voice vote for the person who will chair and be vice chair of this committee. All meetings are always open to the public. That's why we're here today. That's why we waited to 6:30, even though we were all here early. Because if somebody was planning on attending and arrived at 6:30, they would have an expectation that no business would have been conducted prior to that time. So that is why all of these are recorded, and you can always get back and listen to our meetings, or a member of the public that misses it can listen to the recording of the meeting. The expenses of your committee shall be verified by a majority vote. I'm not sure exactly what might be an expense that we wouldn't already cover, but if there was something that you wanted that cost money, then you would have to majority vote and ask the council to pay for it. The council shall provide space, secretarial staff, and legal assistance. So that's what Erica and Jay, myself, and Anne Marie, we are your support staff. And so if there are things you need, research you need done, questions you have, one of the 3 of us would be responsible for addressing your concerns, because we will be here at every meeting providing you staffing. The committee shall review the operations of city government, meet with the mayor and city council, city management, and conduct no less than 1 public hearing in order to recommend changes, if any, to this charter. And so what that means is that you can read the charter and ask any organizational questions or how operational questions. I will, at one meeting, probably make some presentation to you if appropriate. The mayor and council, I was looking at past minutes and past meetings, and it's kind of your discretion how you involve them, but my suggestion, and Jay and I mentioned in a meeting, is perhaps invite them to a meeting or either convene at the conclusion of a council meeting or prior to a council meeting when you know the 7 of you can be here and the 7 of them can be there, and perhaps let them one by one or as a group speak to you. That is probably the easiest way to get input from the mayor and council collectively and without leaving anybody out or, one voice being more. Now, that does not in any way preclude them as a citizen to also appear before you and ask your consideration. But them as a body, I would suggest perhaps a meeting where they were invited as a body to have a joint discussion with you on the charter. The public hearing, every meeting is a public meeting, but the distinction in a public hearing, we would do an advertisement that the attorney would draw up announcing that it is a public hearing, where you would formally solicit input from our community on charter items. In reading the minutes in the past, sometimes a few show, and it's normally very few are in the past, I believe there's only been one or none. So you never know, because through the process, you may have people that do come and want to speak. I did look at the minutes and the organization in the past, and every meeting, just like the city council meeting last time, the chair opened up, as you probably have seen the mayor do at city council meetings, to the public, anybody that would like to make comments to the Charter Review Committee before you get started in your work at the start of each meeting. And that probably is a good process, because maybe somebody can only come to that one meeting and they aren't able to make it to the public hearing. And you would limit it to 3 minutes per person at the podium, and I would time that. So that would be a procedural decision you can make, but in reading the minutes from last time, it appears that every meeting after the first meeting, that was an agenda item, basically audience comments. And the one thing that I will tell you is that you are looking at potential amendments to the charter. And in the past, a lot of amendments have been made. The charter of Seminole is fairly new and young compared to a lot of cities. And it is not out of the realm of possibility that after reviewing this, you may believe that there are no charter changes needed. And that's okay too. If you're not compelled to make changes, but you certainly are advised to recommend changes that you feel would be to the betterment of the city. But at the end of the day, if you feel like that you don't want to recommend any changes, then that also is an action this body can take. The charter amendments that you propose are reviewed by the city council. The city council may submit the amendments to referendum on or before the next regularly scheduled municipal election. As we said, that would be the August 20th. So the city, this is advisory to the city council, who will consider your recommendations and will know the basis for your recommendations. I'm sure that will be communicated. And then they will decide whether or not to forward that to the supervisor of elections office to be placed on the ballot, which is called a referendum, to amend the city charter. So basically, that's it in a nutshell. And I'm sure that most of you already understood that, but just to formalize that process and to give you an opportunity to ask either Erica or myself any questions now or at any time. One thing that does not violate the Sunshine Law is, just like Ms. PG mentioned, is if you have a legal question and you want to call Jay or Erica, or you have a procedural question or technical question and you would like to call me, that is not a Sunshine Law violation. You may talk to your staff about items or clarification. I will tell you that if one member calls and says, could you get me a copy of the ordinance that was last adopted when the charter was changed? We will be happy to do that, but we will provide that copy to every member of the Charter Review Committee so that everybody has the same information. So if you decide to discuss that, then they would have that with them to discuss. At this point, I would recommend that everybody give thoughtful consideration to see if you would like to self-nominate to be the chairperson for the 2019 Charter Review Committee. And if you would, please let me know. Mr. Counts? Is there anybody else that would like to volunteer to be chair? Seeing no one, Mr. Counts, you are now the chair.
Careful what you ask for.
Careful, yes. Mr. Counts, I'll turn it over to you and let you ask for self-nominations for vice chair.
At this time, we'll ask for self-nomination for vice chair. Bernie? Anyone else? Seeing no other interests, then do we need to ask for a motion?
You
We'll
can
just do it?
declare as chair,
All
then,
right, Bernie.
that's right. And maybe a motion to ratify both.
All right, okay. So we'll get a motion to ratify the chair.
I'll motion it.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion passes.
And that was for the chair and vice chair.
And vice chair,
The motion was
yes.
made, okay.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman, one of the things that staff is asking is that you ask this body to set a tentative meeting schedule.
Mhm.
I did review prior to this meeting schedules in the past, and it appears that typically 4 or 5 or 6 meetings, that the 6th meeting being an if needed,
Mhm.
have been decided. You do not have to meet the same day of the week, same time, et cetera. It's just we have to advise when the meeting date is. It is somewhat helpful, I know that in one of the last charter review committee, they met on the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays because council meets on the 2nd and 4th. And that's the reason they chose that, because you do have to have a date that your staff can be here. You can't meet like when the council's meeting because the city clerk and the city manager would not be able to meet with you. And then in the 8 years ago, they scheduled 5 meetings and the 5th if needed. So it is really up to you. I think it's important that you pick dates that all 7 can be here. It is interesting in reading. The time of day is your choice also. You can meet during the day, you can meet in the evening. I read somewhere it was suggested that the public hearing be held during the day, and I would suggest your public hearing be in the evening after 5 so that people can make it. But if in fact, to make it work, you had to alternate daytime versus evening meetings for your working meetings, that would be okay also. So at this time, I would ask that you guide us through the selection of meetings, and then we will talk a little bit about agendas. Because 8 years ago, each agenda had something different, and 4 years ago, the agendas were almost the same, where you could discuss administrative things as well as council suggestions, etc. So it's really a clean plate, and you can define it how you would like.
So I guess the question is does anyone have conflicts during the day?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Not really.
So, do we want to do, just looking at my schedule, every other week? Or do we want to do, what's the consensus as far as bi-weekly, or, because we need to be done by, when did you say, Ms. City Manager?
And the 1st of June, right? Yeah.
At the end of May, 1st of June.
So you've got basically
with a
2.5
recommendation to
months.
council.
Okay.
That would be ideal. We could probably go a few days past that. But
Okay.
Well, if you go every other week, that'd give you 2, 4, 6, almost 6 meetings.
I would think that, like, almost the end of May would be around 5 or 6, so.
Mhm.
So, it's hot in here. Does anyone have a problem starting next Wednesday and then going every other Wednesday thereafter?
No.
Is that good or no?
Well, I unfortunately I signed up for the Citizens Academy, which starts the end of March and is every Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
So I was actually leaning towards the 1st and 3rd Tuesday kind of offset council, but if,
Yeah, the Citizens Academy would be problematical for staff because we have to staff that also.
Gotcha.
it starts on the 27th.
Starts on the 27th?
it goes 7 weeks.
Yeah, I did that. It's a lot of fun.
Now, if the meeting were earlier, the Citizens Academy starts at
I believe 6 to 8.
6 to 8, so it would have to be
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a very long meeting.
Yeah.
And I noticed that the prior charter committee set a policy that they would be done at 8. So they started at 6:30, and however far they got, at 8, they adjourned. But you could go longer and have less.
So what about Thursdays? And then this way you can start next week and we don't lose a week. Because that'll be the same week as the city council meets. Or you do
Thursday's
next Thursday and then go to every other Tuesday opposite of city council.
Didn't the council meet last night? Will they have a meeting next week then?
This month is different
Okay.
because we have council members out of town. We do not have another council meeting until April.
Okay.
So it's just that that's a rarity because the League of Cities conflicted with our second meeting of the month, so we moved it up.
But normally
If
it
we
would have
go
been
to
next week.
Tuesday, then that'll start the 19th.
That would be
That'll be the third Tuesday of March.
yeah.
Typically, we would have a meeting on the second and fourth Tuesday, but we will not be having one on the fourth Tuesday. This go round.
I just have conflicts on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm sorry. That's my only days. I coach high school softball, and I'm looking
What
at,
about Mondays?
Mondays are actually really good.
Let's do Monday.
I think we are going to occasionally have a conflict on Mondays. 50th anniversary meets on Mondays.
What time
On
does
the
that
third,
meeting
that's only
start?
on the third.
Right, that's only on the
Only
third Monday, yes.
Okay, so if we can avoid a third Monday, I think we get rid of the conflicts
There
there.
you go.
Let me look on the city calendar real quick. Besides it being tax day.
So we're avoiding third Mondays.
Yes.
Okay.
18.
So that would be next Monday, would
Right.
be a conflict for them.
So we could do,
The
is everyone
25th.
okay with next Thursday? And then starting up on Mondays thereafter, every other Mondays?
That'd
Thursday,
work.
the 21st?
Yeah.
Start on the 21st, so you don't skip a week, and then go on to Monday, the 25th. And then it would be,
So you would have a meeting on the 21st and the 25th?
yep,
Mm-hmm.
and then the 15th and 29th, is that what you're saying, every other Monday, John?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that works for me.
Well,
15th,
Then the 8th.
No, April 1st is a Monday, so it would be Monday
Oh.
the 8th.
4, 8, and then,
You
Right.
don't want to have a meeting on April 1st.
no,
Why not?
4, 8.
Please,
then
it doesn't
4,
matter.
What time are we talking about?
6:30? Wanna do the
6:30?
same time?
Okay.
And then 4.
Okay, so this is
Four,
the
two.
Thursday, the 21st?
Yes.
So it'd be 3/21, and then 3/25.
And then April,
And then the 5th, if necessary. Is that all right?
What is that?
And the 5th meeting, if necessary. I don't know if there's a whole lot of work in here.
So,
So we'll
Mark-
have one on the 15th?
So that'd be the March 21st, March 25th, April 8th, and April 22nd.
I may have a conflict on the 8th, but I think I can get out of that.
Yay.
We have a meeting that was postponed until the 8th, but I'll go, the Library Advisory Board was postponed from next Monday till, but I can go to it for half an hour and then shoot over here.
It's right across.
And then you're saying if we need to go to May 6th?
We could, yeah, if we
And
want
that
to,
certainly is well within our timeframe. We could go ahead and
Okay.
schedule that as needed.
yeah, we'll do that, May 6th as needed, 6:30. So that's March 21st, March 25th, April 8th, April 22nd, then March 6th.
Okay.
I'll be out of town on the 8th.
March 6th?
Of April?
Yes, I'm leaving Monday,
Did you say
the
March
8th,
6th?
coming
May
back.
6th.
Oh, May, I'm sorry.
Well, we do have April 8th, though.
Yeah, I'm leaving during the day, and I won't be back till,
Perhaps that week we can do a different night.
But she's gonna be gone that whole week?
the whole week, yeah.
And
So
we
then
are
meet
getting
the
into-
week before, meet April 1st.
April 1st could work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll work.
And then April 15th, tax day.
Well, that's the third Monday, though.
Oh, wait, yeah. yeah.
Right.
So April
Then go to the
22nd.
22nd.
Okay, so run down, March 21st, March 25th, April 1st, April 22nd, and May 6th if necessary.
There you go.
Is
Works.
that all good for everyone?
Yep.
And what was the time?
6:30.
6:30.
We'll keep the same time. We have successfully herded cats.
That was gonna probably be the first one too.
God,
And then at the next
hard
meeting.
work, I'm already
we'll-
sweating.
At the next meeting, we can talk about whether you do the right purchase public hearing yet, because
Oh, May.
the public hearing.
May
doesn't
6th only
necessarily
makes
have to be
fine,
the
right?
last meeting. You normally act on anything that's brought before you.
Do you want to have the public one?
Does the past one show when it was held originally? Like the last charter review, was it held like pretty much right at the beginning?
That makes sense, because if someone's got something they want to address, it
Right.
gives you time to discuss it. So, put it for the 325. That gives everybody notice. It gives them a couple weeks to be here. What, a week?
Just a second, I'll see if they listed that. I have the agenda from every meeting, so.
So, hate to do this. Just looked at my
Bernie.
work calendar
Who?
on the
Just threw a wrench in the whole thing we just got.
for the 25th. Yes.
For 325?
Yes. We're driving up to Tallahassee.
That's not.
How big's your car? And we'll need a U-Haul for the public.
Another day is,
Is that March 25th?
March
Yeah.
25th. Yeah.
So he has a conflict March 25th.
Okay.
Well, you could, just to make up for it, do it on the 15th if there's not a conflict, and April 15th.
That's that other meeting thing someone had. What is that, anniversary or something?
The third
the
Wednesday.
third Mondays are
Third
the,
Monday.
another committee.
So then just do it on she's leaving on the 8th. You're gone for a week?
Why don't, Trish, does your committee that's gonna be on Wednesdays start in March?
The Citizens Academy, it starts March 27th.
Okay.
Rosemary was in that, what, 2 years ago? Oh, last year.
Last year it was very good. Something else the week of the 18th?
We have a lot going on. Well, it doesn't say in this document when they have their public hearing. Well.
All right, so run it into May. We
wait a
got
minute. It
time.
was their
The
first,
21st.
after their organizational meeting, it was their next meeting. It appears, it says public hearing, citizen wishing to speak on the charter review may do so at this time. But they allowed public comment at every meeting, but it says public hearing at that one. So you may want to go ahead and do it. And you have what days in March?
21st.
Right now, just the 21st. We're scratch the
So
25th.
that's next week,
You would not
Thursday.
have time to get the advertisement in for that.
So do it for April 1st.
Start April 1st.
Well, no, we can have our meeting and then have the public meeting on April
Right.
1st. That gives it a couple of weeks to advertise.
21st.
And then we've got into May, so you got May 6th, then do May 13th. Because that's the second Monday.
That'll work. So,
So you just have an extra week or two you gotta skip.
and this
Well,
never.
hopefully by that one, we'd be finalizing stuff anyways. It's at the end, so.
Correct. So March 21st is still good. April 1st, April
22nd,
22nd, right?
May
Yes,
6th,
April 22nd.
May 13th.
April 22nd, wasn't that anniversary thing? Or no? There's some.
No, that's the 15th. The 15th is our,
Correct, okay. So, all right, thank you. All right, so March 21st, April 1st, April 22nd, May 6th, and May 13th if necessary. Everyone's good with that?
Yes.
Hold on, Bernie's still looking.
Now, forever hold your calendar.
Now that you're in the flying employment, do you want to simply invite the city council as a whole to one of these meetings?
Yeah.
Or
Invite them to the public one.
in the past, did they invite
Okay.
us to the whole
Yep.
of the meeting? Or did they do a joint session after a council meeting? Do you remember?
recall doing either, they just not open speaking is what
Or really, because the charter,
I can ask council.
yeah, because the charter does say that they would take input from the mayor and city council. So maybe, Mr. Chairman, just a letter of invitation to the mayor and council to
Yeah.
pick a meeting.
Mhm.
Or say, these are our meetings, which one would you like to attend? And I can put that on the next agenda.
That'd be fine.
So I'll ask the council the next meeting.
Will we, Ms. City Manager, have a, well, now that we have the schedule? Yes, now we have the schedule. Will you put that out
Yes.
for us, or will the city clerk?
The city clerk will do that, yes.
Perfect, thank you.
We'll notice all your meetings, you'll get agendas prior to the meeting, and
Good.
Mr. Chairman, if there's anything you want on the agenda in particular, you would just let me know.
Will do. Okay. Any other on the schedule? Next item on the agenda is comments from the city manager.
Yes, I have asked my department heads to look at the city charter to see if there's any recommendations that they would like to advance from administration, in keeping with what the charter asked for you to inquire. I've not received any yet. Many things that we're concerned about is, for example, the purchasing ordinance in our city council. That is an ordinance adopted by council. It's not controlled by the charter. So some of the things that are in some cities in the charter are actually controlled by ordinance in our city. So we're currently reviewing it, and I will ask that an item be put on the agenda, or I will ask to be put on the agenda if there's something from an administrative standpoint that we think need to be, or that we would like to recommend to this committee.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Next item is from our city attorney.
I don't really have anything further, but I am going to give everybody a copy of my business card, so you have my contact information, and you guys can contact me whenever if you have any questions or concerns. If it's not a legal question, and I can maybe direct you in the direction of maybe who could answer it, but my door is always open, as it were.
Thank you. Next item, any other business?
And to echo what Erica said, is that if you have just a procedural question or a city-related question, I may not have the answer, but I know where to get it. And please let me know. And if you do ask that question of the attorney or of myself, we will make every effort to make sure every member of the committee gets that information.
Thank you. Other business? Seeing no other business?
Just a question.
Oh, yes, sir.
And regarding sunshine laws, as it pertains to the city council, does it apply to members of the city council? Like if I were to have a one-on-one, would that be inappropriate, or is that also forbidden?
No, because it's something that you would be taking official action on. You and the council member are not going to be taking official action on the same thing at the same time. It's going to come before this board. You're going to make a recommendation as a board to the city council. So a one-on-one meeting with the city council, with a city council member, is not going to be an issue. Now, if there are two of you and one city council member, or two city council members and one board member, then we have a problem.
Gotcha.
I have a question for the city manager. Does this contain a policy on nominating to the Charter Review Board?
It does not. It's that
Okay.
the charter does say that there shall be 7 members. And in fact, that was a charter change because there was an ability to go up to 9 at one time, I believe, and they changed it so it would just be 7. But the process of doing it is not in here. If in fact that was something that this body wanted to recommend, then that certainly would be something that could be advanced to the city council. Or in some cases, the requirement that the city council shall, by resolution or ordinance, adopt a process by which gives them the ability to adopt a process, but at least a process would be required to be developed by the charter. So there is some opportunities there to develop a process either in the charter or either to compel the city council to be a resolution probably to adopt the process of appointing the charter review committee. This body could also change the number of members can recommend that they be changed. So that anything that's contained in this charter, you can make a recommendation that be amended. And it takes 4 of this body to make that as an affirmative recommendation to the city council.
Okay, so if we make we want to make a change, we make a recommendation, the city council says, yeah, we're not going to do it, then what?
That's it. Because this is advisory to the city council. Now, the city council must also vote just like you. It would take 4 council members to advance a recommendation of this body to be on the ballot.
Question is just procedurally, if we had a proposal that we drafted, what would be the procedure? Should we email it to the city clerk and then she would disseminate it to the members prior to the meeting to notice them if we're going to consider it, or do I just show up with papers to hand out?
You really could do it either way. I would defer to Erica. We'd be happy to make copies in advance if you wanted to bring it up at the meeting, or if you wanted to send it out in advance. That would be something, basically the chair would decide whether or not to put it on the agenda. So it may be better just to bring it, I mean, you can get it to us to disseminate at the meeting, and typically that's the best time, so you have an opportunity to explain why you're recommending it. That would just be my thoughts.
But wouldn't it be up to the city attorney to kind of write it if we all agreed into legalese to make sure it's legally sound the way that it's presented?
Well, what I understood was that if you had a proposal of your own that you wanted to present to this board for
Right.
consideration as a recommended change to the charter, how that would necessarily be put on the agenda or come up for conversation. And I think that process is probably the right way to do it, to have whatever, if you're looking to disseminate something for review, have that sent to the clerk for dissemination prior to the meeting, and then at the meeting during board comments, you can bring it up. Or if it fits underneath in another agenda item, or if the chair wishes to place it on the agenda. And then if this board discusses it and decides this is a change we would like to make, then, of course, we would be making the legal changes to the charter in a strike-through format to be presented as a recommendation to the council.
And the burden is not on you to write it legally.
No, I know that.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
the
no,
ideal
I get that
person.
part.
And if you
Yeah.
say, we want to accomplish this, and everybody agrees, then the attorney would then write it how it needs to be written to accomplish that. So, basically, you can just suggest an idea. I suggest that we have 40 members on the Charter Review Committee, and if there's a consensus or vote on that, then it would be the city attorney that would draft that language for that.
Any other questions, concerns, any other business? Seeing no other indications or concerns, we consider a motion for adjournment. Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to adjourn is passed. See everyone on